As always, today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities, makers of reliable, all-American steel fire training structures built the way you train. Fire Facilities towers, burn rooms, and mobile units help you prepare to respond and survive. Welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter. Today is a big day. Today is my 100th episode. Thank you so much for listening, liking, subscribing, and sharing. It means so much to me. This is a passion project of mine. I don't plan on buying any Lamborghinis or Ferraris because of it, but I get to talk to the best firefighters. I get to share my ideas and hear their ideas, and it really just ignites that fire all over again. So thank you so much. So I have to apologize right off the bat to Danny Beauvais. This should be his part 2 coming up right now, but I miscounted my episodes and I have to put him off for 2 weeks. So part 2 will be in 2 weeks. It's going to be a great podcast. And in between now and then, listen to Danny's podcast, Student of the Game. You can find it on all major platforms. It's a really good podcast. Danny is loaded with passion. Now, my 100th episode, right? Who am I going to have? Well, I thought about this for a long time. There's so many great people that I know, and so many great people that I haven't interviewed yet. So I was really struggling on who this should be. But the one person that stayed constant, no matter who I thought about, was Corley Moore. Corley is a friend of mine, and I'm a huge fan of Firehouse Vigilant and the Weekly Scrap. Corley's a great guy. Now, Corley has been a firefighter for a long time. He's a battalion chief in Moore, Oklahoma. He travels around the country presenting his classes. His podcast is amazing. His YouTube channel is amazing. He's just been an inspiration for me since I started podcasting. Me and him started very close time, and I've had his support from the beginning. I can't say enough good things about Corley Moore, and I will tell you this. I've met him enough. I've taken his classes. I've talked to him enough on and off the podcast to know that he is 100% authentic. What you see is what you get with Corley Moore. He loves the job. He loves sharing what he knows. He is passionate. And if you're around him and you don't get that same passion, you might want to relook being a firefighter, because that guy, I'm telling you, is the best. So we chatted for a little over an hour and 15 minutes. I'm splitting it up into 2 episodes. So my 100th and 101st episode will be coming out this Monday and next Monday. So sit back and relax and listen to us talk about podcasting, his class, The 9 L's, his book, The 9 L's, his audiobook, The 9 L's, and his other stuff. He has another great book that I personally love, Challenger Leadership. It's like a workbook. So we talk about that stuff. And with that, here's Corley Moore. All I said was you could tell on the scrap you're a big guy, but seeing you in person, you big son of a bitch.
Thank you, but I'm a small guy at my department. I've always been a small, skinny guy at my department, so it's kind of weird for me.
Really?
So now, I've gotten thicker as I've gotten older, so some of my old man muscle coming into play.
Old man, can I look forward to that? So, I got old man flab. I look like melted ice cream, basically. So
I like it. It's a body type.
Yeah, it's a type. That's right. And luckily, my wife is very tolerant, so I don't have to worry about that too much.
We're all lucky in that regard, that our wives are tolerant.
Oh, man. Imagine doing what we do, traveling and all the other stuff with a wife that's like, when are you coming home? When are you going to do that? Do you really have to go? Oh, it'd be terrible.
Would not be possible. Could not do it.
No, couldn't do it. And I tell you what, I don't think I could do what I'm doing now with my kid. So I have 4 children. They all moved out except one who's 18, and she goes to college next year. So she's pretty much out with work and school. So I'm afforded the ability to travel around and teach and do all that stuff. But man, 10 years ago, it couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen.
Right.
Oh man.
I'm in a very special spot with my wife, me. We have adult kids, no grandkids. So it's this window to where we can go nuts. I can take off and I'm not missing Little League or dance recitals or any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice. I like to tease my wife every now and then and say, you know what? There's just too much love between us. We need to have another kid. And then she starts putting up an eHarmony account instantly.
Right.
Oh man. So brother, welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter. When I started thinking about my 100th episode, which was about 50 episodes ago, honestly, my thing was, who am I going to have? And then, so there was a bunch of people in my mind right off the bat. And I was like, well, there's people that I haven't had on that maybe I'll have a big wig on that I'd really admire. And then it was, well, there's some people that made a lot of, they affected me a lot, right? Not just through my podcast, but stuff they've written, stuff, their podcast or podcasts.
Absolutely.
Dude, it was a tough decision. And so I got to I'm on 98 right now. So when this comes out, which will be in 2 weeks, it'll be right on time. But about, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, I decided it had to be you, right? But you were always in the mix from day one, always.
Thank you.
I was like, I got to have somebody, but here's what it landed on for me. I'm like, who motivates you more than anything? It's got to be you, right? If the scrap doesn't motivate you, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right on.
Your books, your very first book, I believe it's Challenge Your Leadership. Is that right? So I got to brag on that for people listening. Love it. Absolutely love it. So if you're listening, you have to get it because, dude, it is an honest look. It's you evaluating you. So as you read something, there's questions, right? And the first one that got me was this was a punch in the gut, and it was like the second or third one about listening. And I'm like, dude, I don't listen like I should. So I had to write in there, honestly, I was listening. So, but it helped. It really helped because I keep that book at my office. I don't keep it here at the house because sometimes I will just flip through those where I've answered and am I still on track? Right. Or would my answer change? Love that. So again, brother, thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It means the world to me that you'd be on here.
Brother, it is a honor. First of all, congratulations on 100. That's a huge accomplishment. No, I mean, people don't understand unless they do this. Like they're like, I'll start a podcast. I don't know how many people have started podcasts and get 2 or 3 episodes and then it just disappears.
Right.
Like, I mean, just gone, or 1 episode. And so to get to 100, it's a huge milestone. Congratulations. And huge honor to be invited to be the guest. So I'm very humbled by that. And I thank you, Jake, very much so.
Hey, man, you made a big impression on me. I think you make a huge impression on the fire service in general. And it's just, I don't know, just love it, man. I love watching the scrap. And then, well, let's back up a little bit. Now you got beef with me.
Right. Absolutely.
We got beef. So I feel
podcaster beef.
We got podcaster beef.
Right.
So we got to squash this now so we can set the example for other podcasts. So here's my story. Here's how I remember it. So I go up to Cincinnati and I go up to the 9Ls class and I go there. I'm sitting there. I watch you do your thing. It was amazing. I got to brag about that here in a little bit. And then I go up at the end because you're busy. I go up to shake your hand and you look at me and you say, I don't think so. And you push me down and you step over me and you go talk to other people. That's how I remember it. Now, do you have any other? Is that what happened?
Pretty much how it went down. No, absolutely. I didn't know you were there. I really didn't. Yeah. I think you were incognito with the hoodie up, pulled tight, hiding.
Nope. I had my glasses. I didn't have these on. And,
that might be it. The glasses and that might be enough to throw me off. Because even when I met you at FDIC in person for the first time last year, I was like, oh, it's Jake. Because I didn't recognize you without the headset.
Yeah, so I tell you, I feel so bad about it. I really do feel bad about it. I apologize. What really happened was I'm sitting in the class, and every single break we had, lunch and everything, Corley was just swamped with people. So I'm like, I want to go talk to him, say hi, but at the same time, all these people want to talk to him. And I'm like, you know what? I've got access to Corley. He's been on my podcast. We stay in touch. You know what? I'm just going to not bug him. I'm not going to bug him. So this happened all day long. And every break, man, people were talking to you. And I was like, so it got to the end of the day. And again, you were swamped. You were taking a lot of pictures. And I was like, man, I don't interrupt these guys' times. They may not have the access to Corley I have.
Right.
Now,
I get that. I appreciate that. But
that's what I thought. But yeah, I
love seeing that.
Yeah, I know. And that's on me. And you know what? I did the same thing to Kyle Rombigus, and I feel horrible about that. Same exact thing. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better at that stuff.
And I'm never too busy. In the class, I love, and that's my problem too, is I get to talking to somebody, and there's like 4 or 5 people who have questions or want to discuss something at a class. And I'll talk and I'll go deep diving with somebody, and then the next person, and it stacks up. And I'm not very good at being succinct and quick, and so But yeah, I love having those discussions with people when they're having leadership, cultural issues, or whatever. Especially with the 9Ls, sparks those debates, and people have questions about it. So absolutely, but no, never be afraid to, or not afraid, but feel like you're imposing or anything. I understand where you're coming from with the respect, but I love people, and I love students of the craft that are passionate about it, and I love Jake Barnes. So
Go Jake
absolutely.
Barnes. Well, you're so genuine too, and I saw you have those conversations. You were never hurrying anybody up at all, not even a little bit. You would listen and talking to them, and Cal was the same way. Cal, I mean, you guys get so passionate about what you talk about that when you talk to other people, that you're just having a whole nother, basically a mini class with these people. So, but I'm working on it. I'm going to make sure next time.
One of the best. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Kyle is fantastic. And that was in Cincinnati area. So I was able to hit those back to back. Great stuff. I got brag, man. Let me brag on you about your class. So the 9Ls is a great book. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. It's great. It's really, really great. The class and the book together, son, they don't get any better than that. They just don't. It's just like my second marriage. It's just awesome. So here's the thing about it. So I go to your class. Now, what I had to sit and marinate, and I told you, I texted you, I said, look, I want to let you know what I think about your class, but I want to sit and marinate on it, because you leave a class and you're automatically amped up. You're so happy and like, but I said, you know what? Corley's a friend. I want to really, really be honest and tell him what I thought. And the more I thought about it, the more I loved the class. I had no problems with the class. Now, here's something that I love about you in presenting. It's the first time I've seen you present. Your PowerPoints are like none I've ever seen.
Thank you.
I don't, if you were to describe to me your PowerPoints, I would go, I don't know, Corley, right?
Chaos.
Well, that's the way it would come across.
Right.
But seeing them, they were amazing.
Thank you.
And I was like, PowerPoints can be one of two things. They can be a crutch or they can be a distraction.
Yeah.
And they
can put you to, yeah.
It was not death by PowerPoint. They were the most interesting, funny PowerPoints. But the best part was, I don't remember you, for the 9Ls part, the first part, looking at those PowerPoints at all. You walked through a crowd and you were clicking, and you knew how many clicks to like do the other stuff. I mean, it was, I lack the vocabulary to describe how great an experience it was. And that's what it was. It was an experience.
And that's some of the kindest words I've ever received as far as the class goes. I really do appreciate it. I worked very hard on the slides themselves and the I don't want to say choreography, but just the comfort. I think comfort is I'm so comfortable with what the next point is, and able to, and I really do. I tell people at the beginning of the class, listen, if you want to take a picture of a slide, if you want to ask me a question, interrupt me. I said, I promise you, it will break my concentration. It will, but that's okay. That's why I have so many slides, because my slides keep me on point. I said, I get right back on track. So don't worry about it. I said, a squirrel will run by and it will break my concentration, but my slides, they'll keep me on track. So don't worry about it. Just ask the question or spark the discussion, or I say, can I take a picture of that or whatever, so thank you.
It was, I'm going to continue to brag on it, because I think people have to see this. They have to buy the book, because it's not only is it great information now, it's great information then, it's going to be great information in the future. Because having been in the fire service for a while, I wish I had this kind of outlook on the fire service. And I'm not going to say ease to make things better, but you line out a really great template. So in your class, you pass out the paperwork.
Right.
And you say at the end of every L, all right, let's fill out this paperwork, right? Or fill out these questions, or they're basically pieces of paper, so you can go back and reference what you were talking about, and it ties perfectly in with the book. So this is what I stole from you. We're doing our very first ground up leadership academy in May.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. And to put my money where my mouth is, I bought 25 books from you.
Right.
And I think these books are a must for officers, new or old. So that's one of the first books me and Christina, the HR lady who were putting this class together, I said, you got to read it. So she's reading your book right now, and she likes it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we already got the books, and also I stole that paperwork thing from you, where you actually reinforce what you've learned. So I asked Mark Alone, because he's going to present in my class. So he's coming up with that. Blake Stinnett, Jared Vermeulen. I don't know if you've heard of Jared.
No, Jared.
He's new. He just wrote a book called The Modern Fire Officer.
I've seen the books. But I hadn't put the name with the.
Yeah, it's
hadn't
so good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. Matter of fact, we bought 25 of his books too.
Nice. Okay, that's a good endorsement. That's more than just I like it. That's when you get the book, that means yeah.
He's a wonderful guy, and it reminds me of you.
What was his last name? Say it again.
Vermeulen. Vermuelen.
Got it. Okay.
His actually his 2 podcasts are last Monday and the Monday before. So a great book, a fantastic book. If we're building our very first leadership academy, we have to set that precedent early. We got to set the bar high, and I definitely bought your book. So, and that's not even me talking about the book yet, and I'm already bragging on you. Can you believe that?
Man, I'm terrible at taking compliments, but thank you, man. I've been very humbled. I'm very proud. I want to say that. Very proud of the reception the book and the class gets. But I'm also humbled by it. I'm bad at taking it. But thank you, man. Yeah. It means a lot to me. It really does.
Good. It should. And you know what? I had Adam Neff on here, and Adam Neff told me, he said, you know what? What's the first thing you do when somebody gives you a compliment? And I'm like, no, thank you. He goes, no, accept a compliment. Say thank you. You know, and you're doing everything right according to Adam. So I don't, obviously.
Good person to follow.
All right, brother. So let me ask you this. I just did it.
Let me ask you this. That's our thing. Hey, take a shot.
Take a shot. Golly. So you're coming up on 188 or 89? Yes. 88, right?
88's Tuesday. 188.
Okay. And so how many years does that translate?
Me and my wife just talked about it. Started in December of 2019. So it's just over 3.5-ish. We're pushing 3.5.
Okay. Fantastic.
And it's been almost 1 per week, 52 a year almost. I think Spotify told me, or Buzzsprout told me, you put out 53 episodes in 2022. I was like, well, there you go. It's weekly.
Hey, you hit it.
Right on.
So, you and I started fairly close. And I remember one of the big things, I'll never forget this, matter of fact, me and my wife, it was right kind of in the beginning of COVID. And we had to go, she just got moved to an office. COVID hit, so then they're working from home. So she had to go pick up her stuff at her office. So we're over there in Louisville doing that. And you text me about my podcast. And I was like, wow, that's Corley Moore, right? Wife jumps in the car. And I think you asked me first, right?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, we've been on both. But either way, I showed my wife. Of course, she doesn't know anybody in the fire service. Now she knows exactly who you are. By the time she's like, okay. I'm like, yeah. Look. So it was a big deal for me. Big awesome. Deal for me that you reached out. That was really awesome.
I love passionate people in the fire, brother. With people who are passionate and people who are consistent are two of my favorite things. You combine it, and man, it's hard to beat. So I was, yeah.
Have you always been this way, or have you had your dips? What was your lowest point in the fire service career? I mean, were you ever like, I don't want to go to work, or this sucks?
Oh man, one of the reasons I have a high empathy for mutts, honestly, and that everybody says mutts don't scrap, etc. But I have a high empathy because truth of the matter is this: complacency doesn't care who you are. Man, it doesn't care if you're fired up, motivated, and on top of the mountain. It doesn't care if you're in the toilet, down in the valley, lacking all sorts of discipline, consistency, and motivation. It does not care. It just wants to suck you down. And so, yeah, I've absolutely been, it's one of those things where early in my career, I did not appreciate the job. I wasn't passionate about being a firefighter. I've always loved being a firefighter. Don't get me wrong, because it's the coolest job on earth. But I wasn't passionate about the calling, the understanding that, it was just, show up, make the rides, high five, kick indoors, kissing ladies, saving babies, but 100% through maturation, really just growing up. And then my mentors and people like Mark Von Oppen, I saw him in 2016, I want to say, and he had a huge impact on my career. He came and taught a class and I got to catch it. Brian Brush brought him into Oklahoma, and he was the first person I ever heard who said, it's okay to love this job. It's okay to be really good at this job. Like that's awesome. And I was like, yeah, that's how I feel. And he actually connected those pieces for me. You know what I'm saying? And to where I was like, yeah, I do want to be good at this job, and it's okay. Because I never bash my department. My department's an awesome department. I love the
Mhm.
Moore Fire Department. 26 years there. I love it. And, but there was a time in the culture there where you won if you could get to the slowest station. That was the
Oh,
goal of
wow.
your career. If you could do the least possible in the day, you were the winner. And that's just, it's a culture that creeps into a place. And the only way to avoid it is through action and choice. And, but no, that's what I'm saying. I was part of that, and I'm no excuses. I was a complacent firefighter. And so I have a high empathy for people that are that way. And that's where a lot of my passion comes from, because I've been on the other side. And
Mhm.
so, it's consistency is tough. But the hardest battle you will ever fight is the fight against complacency, because it never ends. It
Mhm.
never ends. And that quote is from Terry Scott, who's one of the battalion chiefs of the Moore Fire Department. And he said that right before he retired. And it's always, it's one of the reasons why the byline for Firehouse Vigilance is the never ending fight against complacency. And so, anyway, I don't know if I even answered the question there.
No,
So,
you did. You did. You absolutely did.
I went on
It,
on a
that's it.
trip.
That's what I want. That's the passion, right? So I get. So you've LJ guys. You've interviewed
yeah.
LJ guys.
LJ,
You
solid.
is there any possible way, and answer honestly, that you can listen to him or talk to him and not get excited about the fire department?
He exudes passion when he speaks. Like it's out of his pores. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He connects very emotionally with whatever message he is saying.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Him and Justin Fraze and
Oh yeah.
and as so
You're talking.
as what I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're talking. Yeah, you're talking some of my favorite people.
Well, you know, I love the fire service, and for me, I wasn't always in love with my fire department. Now, a vast majority of that was me. I've talked about that before. I was just ego driven and blaming everybody else but myself. And that day I woke up, I'm like, oh crap, I'm a mud, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped out of my way and things got better. Now, with that said, we have had a culture problem as well. And my biggest problem is trying to figure out where I fit in to have been part of that bad culture and trying to make it better. This leadership academy we talked about, we're trying to address that and get that ship righted. But I find as a podcaster that I get more like, I feel like today I'm like, man, I couldn't love fire service more than I do right now. I can't believe how lucky I am.
Right
and
on.
Then tomorrow I'll go, dude, oh my God, I talked to Corley Moore yesterday, or anything like that. And it seems like it's a never ending, like marathon. There's no end for me. And as soon as I think like I've hit that max about, dude, and I do get depressed thinking about, I don't have much time left in the fire service.
Oh yeah.
I really don't. And I'd give anything to have taken whatever pill I took a few, 5, 6 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah. 20 years ago.
Man.
Hell. Yeah.
Dude.
Holy crap. Can you imagine?
Oh my God. That, you know what? I am a late bloomer on anything and everything. For example, you say, hey, have you, what's your favorite song? Like today, I'd be like, oh, I love that new Aha song. I'm like,
right.
They're like, dude, that's from the 80s, bro.
Yeah, Take On Me, man. That's great.
Yeah, Take On Me. I just heard it the other day. Man, I fell in love with that stuff.
Right on. No, dude, I started in 97, and here it is. I started Firehouse Vigilance in 2018. So you talk about late starter. That's me.
Well, yeah.
So 100%.
So with your podcast, from where you started to where you're going, what has changed for you in your passion in the department or service?
The fire service as a whole, or in the department?
No, just do both.
Okay. Well, the fire service as a whole, man, I love teaching. I'm not a, people ask me about how long I've been doing public speaking, and I started in 2020. And so
really,
but I'm not comfortable with it. I used to have to look at my Fitbit right before I start. My heart rate would be like 170. My armpits just full of sweat, and terrible anxiety for public speaking. But I've gotten more comfortable, obviously, but it's still there. I'm not comfortable with it at all. So in the fire, I love teaching though. or not even teaching. I love sharing my passion. And so, that's what's changed the most for me is the podcast has elevated my, I don't want to say the brand of the 9Ls, the Firehouse Vigilance, the Scrap has elevated the demand so that people get to hear me speak and teach or present, which is where my real passion is. The podcast was just a way to get my message out there originally. Firehouse Vigilance was just a way to get my message that I was passionate about out originally, but it was just blogs and no one was reading it. And I was putting out my pictures that I loved and all that stuff. And I was sharing it, but the scrap is really what drives everything and has opened up a lot of doors. And I'm just, like I tell people, I'm just the guy that talks to the guys, the guy that talks to all the firefighters. And, but it's phenomenal. It's again, what's changed the most for me is just I just have to, like you said, I'm so grateful that people want to hear what I have to say. And that's what really drives me is like, man, there's a lot of people out there with better messages, more passionate, everything. But I'm just grateful that there's a demand to be heard. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I guess for me, I've learned that everybody has a message. Every single person has a message. It doesn't have to be, Kurt Isaacson or Mark Van Oppen. I mean, every one of us has a message, but not every one of us has a way to get that message out. Not everybody wants to be a writer. Not everybody wants to be a podcaster. But if you get them, if you talk to them and just talk to them one-on-one, you'll see the passion, right? You'll feel the passion. And then, I don't know, I guess I kind of thought some of the bigger people in our industry would be kind of self-absorbed or maybe hard to talk to. And I haven't had one. What's
amazing, that is the most amazing thing, is that every one of the truly the big names, and I'm, are just humble, just do work, will talk to anybody, salt of the earth, man. Every one of them, almost without fail. And I think it's part of it, because if you are super egotistical, the firefighters smell that and just they reject it. You know what I mean? And I don't think you'll have any sort of long-term success unless you're authentic and genuine and humble. And I can't prove that. I haven't met everybody, and there's probably some asshole out there that but all of the ones that I've interacted with, and the network after 180 episodes is pretty extensive, but all of them are like, I can pick up the phone and, I have a truck question, and pick up the phone and call a truckie from Boston or that I've had on, or the Twisted Truckie. And it's just like every one of them, insert whatever field of expertise I'm looking into, forcible entry or fire behavior or building construction. And every one of them just takes the time to answer the question, or someone will reach out through me and to a guest, and they're humble and they just give. And it's amazing. So
it is. And I just love it. And like you, it's nice having that network where you can get a hold of somebody. Well, just doing this leadership thing. And they're like, well, do you know anybody that might do culture? I said, I'll give Mark a call. I'm like, oh, shit. Wow. It's cool to name drop stuff like that. You don't think about it at the time, but you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. This podcast affords us a lot of opportunity, and it doesn't really ask a whole lot, really. I mean, a little bit of your time. And I say you probably baked your time into the scrap. I mean, it's baked in now. I mean, that's like your day, for, every day on this.
It's a machine.
Monday or Tuesday. Yeah.
It's a well-oiled machine on what stuff needs to get posting it. And so it's scheduled, getting it out there on social media, who the guest is going to be. And usually I get that done a week before, sometimes only a few days before. Like today, I posted it today for Tuesday because I've been on the road. But, and then of course the day of, making my show notes, getting everything ready, everything I want to say in that episode, making sure I have their bio right and all of that. And doing the research on the questions, because I really, man, early on, I would be like, I'm having so-and-so on, and it's no big deal. He'll just drive it, and I'll just ask questions, and I'll wing it, right?
Right.
And after, I think it was, I don't remember which episode it was, but it was around number 28, and I was just like, I will never be unprepared again. And it was just one of those switches, and from that point forward, I have this whole thing I do to prep for the episode. Yeah, absolutely. It matters. Preparation absolutely matters.
It does. And I like for the guest to drive the show, but there's times where, I mean, there's a lull and you got to have something.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I had the shortest time researching what I wanted to talk to you about, because I already knew, I just had to type it down so I don't forget.
And those are the better, when you really know the person and have a good relationship with them, those are the best ones, because you can really, really dig into some topics that you don't, and those are but then there's the times when you don't know them at all. And I know you've probably experienced this, because I get to talk to another podcasting host, but it's where your guest is struggling. And and they're not the best speaker, and I'm not knocking anybody, but and there's been times when I've finished up a podcast, I'm like, man, it was terrible. He did a terrible job. And then I have to look in the mirror and say, Corley, you're the freaking podcast host, take care of business and set him up for success. And so that's the thing that goes through my head when someone's struggling. It's like, dig into the question, dig in, pry it back, get them comfortable. Come on. This is your show. Make it happen.
Yeah,
and that's
it. You got to make them
Yeah.
comfortable right off the bat.
Yeah.
That's why I try to always start with a little bit of a joke in the
Sure.
beginning and goof off a little bit because I think that helps.
No, the relaxation.
I've had guests, one particular guest, and it was my lack of preparation that I felt like that episode was lacking. And
Mm-hmm.
the guest would, like, I would ask him something, it would be yes or no, right? So I wasn't asking good enough questions. I wasn't prepared.
Not good open-ended questions, just a lot of closed-off questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, hey, do you like ladders? Yes.
Yes.
Cool. It's terrible. And then I had probably, and I'm actually going to name drop this one because he was great. I was terrible. Jason Patton. I was nervous, probably more nervous about him than anything. Not 100% sure why. Now, the podcast itself turned out better than I thought it was going to, but I just thought I did a really, really bad because I wasn't prepared for it to take the turn it did. So I approached the Jason Patton interview as, okay, you do funny stuff. I think you're funny. Let's talk funny stuff. It was stupid, right? I had no clue, terrible preparation, how involved he was with firefighter mental health.
And fight. Yes.
Dude, he drove me right down that road and it helped. And I got good feedback on that. But all I could think about was, that was lack of preparation. You didn't really research your guest at all, other than what you thought was, hey, he's funny, So that was a tough lesson to learn, but he was great. I mean, he was awesome. I love the guy to death, but I feel like
he's 100%. Dude, there's a reason he's so successful. Who he is who he is. He's amazing, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing on the preparation, sometimes for whatever reason, I'm on the road, I get back, I got to hurry, get a scrap, whatever it is. Anytime I've ever had a scrap that I considered bad, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, that was not a good one. I don't think the value was there, or whatever metric I'm using to measure it. Every time, once I get some distance on it, look in the mirror, I'm like, Corley, it was your fault.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was your fault, not anything else. It was, you didn't do your part. And so that's over, especially after 188 now. I've realized that, and it's good to have those little things in your head. Hey, if it's not going the way you want it, it's your fault. Own it, get it on, let's go. That's that little voice in my head.
No, that's exactly right. And it goes right along with firefighting. Honestly, you get your ego out of the way and realize how it's, your success and failure is yours. It's not just you own your successes and somebody else owns your failures. And so, I feel way more comfortable. What's that?
That'd be a lot nicer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. For the past, I don't know, a few months, I've been longer than that. I've been struggling with ego in the fire service because I'm seeing so much. I mean, mine especially, but everywhere I go, I see bad decisions made and bad things said, and it's all ego driven. And in today's world, everything's pronouns. You got to be careful about your pronouns.
Sure.
In the fire service, it's the same. When I hear a firefighter talking about me and I'm instantly almost turned off. When they're talking about fire departments, they're like, well, me, I do this. And I'm like, your pronouns probably should be them. What can we do for them? It's not anybody in the fire. I mean, honestly, when we come to work, it's less about the people in the firehouse. It's more about the people that are outside the firehouse.
Dude, that's strong. I really like that pronoun bit. I might steal that.
It's all you, bro.
Giving you a heads up. Might use that for presentation. Put that on a slide. I like
there
that.
You go. Hey, look, nothing make my day better. But it is true. People get caught up in their own egos, and they don't consider when they come to work that everything they do has to do with the customers, right? And I think, and here's where people get a little mad, and I've had conversations where, well, like, you're telling me the crew doesn't matter. I'm like, no, but I don't think my crew should be my starting point. I think the community should be.
Right on, brother. Preach.
I mean, it should be. And if you do that, the other stuff will fall right into place. So that's the thing I'm working on. I don't know if I know it's going to become a sticker. I don't know if I'm going to write an article on it yet or not, because when anything rolls around in my head like this every day, I think about it. I know something's about to happen.
Right.
So I made the comment one time. I forget who I was talking to. I said, wouldn't it be great if there was a sticker or a button on the outside of the firehouse that you put your thumb on before you walked into work, and it sucked out your ego for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then it got me thinking, because I catch myself all about the Jakester. So,
Sure.
But I always have a water bottle. So I'm thinking, man, if I had a sticker to put on my water bottle, and when I'm being an ass bag, I just hit that, maybe suck at that ego a little bit and realize that again, pronouns, it's not me, it's not my, it's about them and they.
No, it's strong, dude. That's strong. I love it.
Yeah.
Cancel the ego. No, and the self-deception, man, such a powerful force in the world. And people just don't really, like, I don't have an ego. I don't have an ego. Yeah. They're just completely oblivious.
Yeah. I think for me, the struggle is, and I've seen it other people too, and they've admitted to it, is it's hard to be wrong. It's hard to say outside of yourself that, you know what, I messed up, my bad. And I'm getting so much better at it that, like, I look forward to it. And that's weird. I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to apologize. Hey, I'm wrong. You're right. And when I'm in training and stuff, and somebody will call me out on something, I go, you know what? You're right. I'm wrong.
Right.
I'm getting kind of addicted to that, but I think that's a great way to get some of that ego out of there. And then I think people respect you a bit more if you're just honest and open and say, you know what? I don't know everything. I'm an idiot.
And I screw up all the time. Yeah. I'm a king of the screw ups.
Dude, that's it. That's it. It's just admitting you're wrong, keeping that ego in check, and then helping brothers and sisters, man. And that's what it is. And it's not a hard recipe to follow to have a successful career or have an impact in the fire service. Just
no. You just spot on. I think Brunacini summed it up with "be nice," and there's a lot in those two words. You know, be nice, and a lot of that is ego, self-deception, treating other people. You know, it's more than just be nice. There's so much wrapped up in that. That's why it's such a beautiful, simple statement that applies. It really does solve a lot of things.
Well, his was it customer service or quality customer service? Whatever that book is, we bought 25 of those.
The cartoon, the white one, yeah.
We got those for the class.
But the illustrated with comic type style illustrations, yes.
Yeah,
been around for a long example. Time, it's a timeless classic, without a doubt.
It is. But you talk to some of these younger people, they've never heard of it. Hell,
right.
I actually talked to somebody that didn't know who Brunacini was. I was like,
I think we're talking about using his son's book for one of our officers' tests. We're not sure we picked it yet, but so anyway, sorry. Rabbit hole.
That's okay. Was it Nick?
I think it's Nick's. Yes, because
he got a book of his. I got B Shifter. That's the only one I got.
I think there's also, I don't want to say the wrong title, but anyway, he's got an officer book.
Okay.
Leading company. Anyway, yes.
Well, I tell you what was really cool. I was up at FDNY teaching last month, and so we got to go to. It was the 108th birthday of Rescue One, so we got to go to this bar for food and drink, and they had everybody there. And if you go to my Facebook, you'll see the picture. A friend of mine sitting across from me, he goes, "Dude, that's Norman." And I look back, and he is. So I got a picture of me and the man himself. Well, he didn't see me, but I'm like looking like, "That's him." And then he came up and talked to us. He said goodbye to us too. I mean, he was class act, but I fanboy so easily, dude. I mean, I fanboy hard. And luckily, the people that I teach with are the same way, man. They love the service. They love everything about it. So they're like, "Man, that's that guy." And so then we start looking around, like, "Oh, there's this guy. There's this guy. There's this guy." Pretty badass. And you've had Frank Lieb on before, right?
Oh man, yeah, we just had him on not long ago. Phenomenal, dude. One of the best people, without a doubt.
Oh my God, he's crazy good, and his level of caring is it might be unmatched. To hear him talk, he came in and gave a little speech before we started, and it was like he was giving a keynote with passion and everything. It lasted like 5 minutes, and I was sitting there going, "Holy crap!"
Passionate, articulate, competent, confident. Man, he is the full package. Period. Like, massive respect for him.
Great.
And I got to listen to him at do a keynote down at Pensacola. Earlier or last year, and man, that's where I met him in person and made the connection with him, so he could. And 100%. Like, one of my favorite people.
Isn't it cool to meet these people doing what we do?
Yes. No, like I said, I'm the guy that talks to the I'm just the guy that talks to the guys. Yeah. But it's amazing, man.
I tell you what, you melted my brain with one phrase in Cincinnati, and you were talking about the scrap. Now, you were not self-promoting, and I like that. But at the same time, hey, this is what I do. So you mentioned it really briefly, but the one phrase you said, you threw out there, and you threw it off. I don't know if you knew you said it, but it hit me right between the eyes. You go, I get to talk to, what'd you say? I get to talk to people. I get to talk to firefighters you've never heard of. Remember that?
Yes. No, I say usually at the start of the class, usually.
Yeah. I was like, So, I mean, you give that platform to brothers and sisters. Like I said, everybody's got a message, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be, Aaron Fields. You don't have to be these guys that are just, bigger than life.
And
You can,
in context, I usually say I get to talk to the most amazing people that everybody has heard of, all the way to the most passionate people from a department where no one knows where they came from. They never heard their name, but they're all passionate and they all have taught me so much. That's kind of the gist of what I say somewhere in there. So
it was amazing. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So we got to talk about your new book.
Okay.
I want to talk about your new book.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being on here and let me just kind of bullshit around a little bit, but I think I think people need to read your book. If they haven't, they need to. Although I want to talk to you about why they shouldn't read your book.
Okay. I like this.
So
I think I will see.
You know where I'm going, don't you?
No, I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
Okay. So the book's called The 9 L's: Keys to Building a High Performance Culture. Right?
Absolutely.
And can you tell me real briefly about those 9 L's? What are the 9 L's?
Man, learn right out the gate. Learn, number one. Number two, listen. You have to communicate. Number three, level. You have to understand what level you are on in relation to the people you're responsible for. Number four, look. You have to have a vision if you want to have a high performance culture. Number five is laugh. One of my favorites, very important, all about building relationships. Love is number six. And man, it's inside, outside the fire service. It's something we're losing is our empathy, and in society and in the fire service. And so love is number six. Number seven, live. You have to stay consistent. It's all about that integrity. Number eight, labor. You have to put in the work because all of the 9 L's take work. There is no easy shortcut. Number nine is last. You have to make it last. You have to stay consistent. It's not, something you can just get fired up about for a week. You got to do it for a 30-year career, 35-year career. And that's, and then of course the hidden L, but that is the 9 L's in a nutshell. Yeah. I mean, you asked, there you go.
How did what sent you down that path? Like for me, I just talked about how I got something about ego in the fire service rattling around in my head. So when it stays in my head that long, it usually comes out, article, podcast, something.
Sure.
How did this come to be?
I always tell people I was following my wife around Hobby Lobby and I saw one of those live, laugh, love, the live, laugh, love that people put on their walls, the little arts and craft thing. And that got my brain turning because like I said, squirrel will distract me. So it got me thinking, what else is there? Live, laugh, love, learn, lift. And I went through a bunch of L words because there was lift in there at one time. Luck was one of them at one time. But and then I started building that class. Originally, the class was built to be an officer development program for my own department. And that was the original reason for building it. And then it kind of just, over time, it's morphed into what it is. It started in 2018, and then I started teaching it actually outside my department in 2020.
So since you started that to how the book came out, how much more has changed, or did you land on that stuff pretty strong in the beginning? No,
it was like, there's so much stuff in there that like, I like people taking notes. I think people should take notes every time they go to a class. Now, not everybody's a note taker. Not everybody even pays attention to a class, especially when they're voluntold to get in the class, So it's hard to keep people engaged and wanting to take. So I wanted something that was, how can I do this? Oh, firefighter proof notes. I actually learned it from John Maxwell. If you ever listen to Maxwell's leadership podcast, you can go to the website and download these sheets that are just like mine. So that's his idea completely, or one of his people's idea. And it's just fill in the blank answers of the points of the podcast. And I loved that. So I completely stole it, turned it into a slide, and that made the firefighter proof notes. So as you go along, you at the end of each L, we fill in that little section. It takes like 5 minutes. But one of the things originally when we were filling it out, it was just silence, me clicking, right? And then somebody somewhere along the way when I was teaching it said, man, it's just really awkward. We're all sitting there scratching our notes and you're just standing there while we're copying off the slide. And they said, you should put some music, some Jeopardy music or something there. So it started as Jeopardy music, but that got too repetitive 9 times. So now I've got some sort of copyright free electronic music that kind of plays in the background, but it's those little things that just make it a little better each time, those little evolutions. And like on the firefighter proof notes, I'm huge on taking notes, but I'll go and find here, this is something I've been working on. These are my notes from conferences. I don't know if you can see the notepads.
Oh, geez.
And, but I'm huge on it. And then I try to organize them so I can find them later. That's what all the tabs are. So they can actually
OCD much?
They can actually sit in a file cabinet and I can go through the tabs and say, oh, there's Todd Edwards in 2019 or whatever.
Oh,
and
my
so,
gosh.
But I also, if I take a class, sometimes I'll find notes in the bottom of my locker, 2 years later and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I took that class from, insert whoever. And that's the point behind the firefighter proof notes is you pull it out 2 years from now and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when Corley talked about vision or listening, and it drives it back home. So that's the, one of the evolutions. And then I've always been taking out points and putting in points. Stuff that falls flat, I try to pull it out. And then stuff that really works, I expound on. And so it's constantly in flux. Now, I've gotten to a point where I'm kind of done with it. It's evolved as much as I'm doing. And that was the reason the book kind of made that happen, because once you write a book based off the class,
that's it.
Yeah, you've kind of locked it in book form. Unless you're going to edit the book and change it up, it's now locked in. And it was in a pretty good place, I think, to write the books. It had been given, probably 100 times across the country, and it had lots of feedback, and it evolved into a very, I think, it flows really well.
Oh, it does. It does. And that's the thing I like about the class too. I personally enjoyed having the book before the class.
Okay. That's cool to hear, because the book is relatively new, and I don't know, how that is if you come take the class, if you've read the book, I don't know if it's like, oh, he's just talking about the,
No,
that's cool to hear.
I thought it was great. It felt to me like I was getting a little bonus content, to be honest with you. There's a few things there that I really liked, but there's one thing that you did in the class and is in the book, and I love it. I'm a very visual person. So the net analogy that you use, do you want to tell us about that? Because I think that's on point, bro.
Man, it starts off, that's one of the first points before the L's start, is I talk about the leadership net. And the leadership net, as you imagine, is a net that goes in every direction for infinity. And I talk to everybody, without teaching the whole class here, boring everybody. But I talk to everybody, what's the most important trait that a leader should have, right? Because everybody's different. That's a big point about the class and the book. We're not all the same. What works for Jake Barnes in a leadership position may fall completely flat if I tried to emulate it or put it into action. Right. And so we're not cookie cutters. We can't just follow a recipe. You can't just be given like, do this, this, and this, although principles absolutely apply. But I talk about everybody, and then we go around the room and everybody shouts out what they think is important: empathy, trust, honesty, consistency, integrity. All the words that we all can agree are really high up there in what leaders should have. And long story short, if you imagine each of those words as a strand on that net, you know what I'm saying? And they go on forever. And as long as you have those qualities, the net can do its job. And you can be really strong in like your passion or your knowledge, or your competence, and it can be a really thick strand. The net will still work. But what you can't have is strands that are missing. Mm-hmm. And if you're missing those things like honesty or integrity or passion or vision, whatever the words are that are important, if you're missing those things, then you don't have a leadership net at all. And the more you try to use your skill set, the more you're going to wonder why you're not catching any fish, or insert whatever the success analogy is. So that is the leadership net. And because everybody says, well, what's your strengths? But yes, your strengths are absolutely important, and you should maximize them as much as you can, and you should work on your weaknesses. But mainly, man, just don't be missing any of them. It's not about how strong you are in them. Just don't let them be missing.
Right.
So
great.
Anyway.
I love it. And I tell you what, so here's the thing. I got to tell you another thing about it. You probably don't remember this. No, I'm kidding. This was in your class. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do this. Hold on a second. Ready? So let me ask you something.
Let me ask you this. Okay. Take a shot.
Okay. So you broke my brain a lot in that class. And I was scribbling furiously. Another one that punched me right in the gut is something I feel like I should have known. I feel like everybody should know. I didn't. I can't speak about everybody else. And I want you to talk about this, because this was, to me, this is like you gave me a gold bar when you said this.
I'm excited.
Okay. Don't, can't, won't.
Right.
Don't, can't, won't. That simple, to the point. And I loved how you explained don't, can't, won't when it comes to teaching and
absolutely
teaching, learning, leading, everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you break the brains of the people listening?
First, I have to absolutely give credit to where credit is due. Same as in the class, same as in the book. Chief Frank Viscuso, man, amazing person, wrote the book Step Up and Lead. And he talks about the 3 U's: unwilling or unable, unknowing, unable, unwilling. And you see right there with the 3 U's, I'm not good with the 3 U's. I'm like, what are they? Okay. Unknowing is the first one. Unable is the second one. Unwilling is the third one. And so 100%, the don't, can't, won't is for my firefighter ADHD brain to lock into, I don't have to think what the 3 U's are. It's don't, can't, and won't. When you give somebody an expectation and they do not meet it, or if there is an expectation, let me say it the right way. If you have an expectation for something to occur and it does not happen, then you start with the question, is it because don't, can't, or won't? And if you answer those questions, which one it is, don't, can't, or won't, it will absolutely give you the remedy for fixing the situation. And so don't. And I use the analogy of making coffee in the morning for the rookie. A rookie making coffee in the morning, they're supposed to make it. You show up that day and they haven't made the coffee. So you look at them and you're like, hey, why isn't the coffee made? Now, argue whether they should or shouldn't, or who's, all that. But long story short, there's an expectation by me that the coffee will be made and it's not. So I look at them and I say, hey, is it don't, can't, or won't? The first one's don't. They don't know. They don't know they're supposed to make the coffee. They can't do it if they don't know. Well, don't is on us. Like 100% as the person in charge or whatever, you have to educate, teach, communicate the expectation. If they don't know it, they can't read your mind. They can't do it. And this goes to everything, no matter what it is. You have to communicate the expectation. So we take care of the don't with communication, teaching, education. And so that's easy fix. So you tell them, hey, make coffee when you show up in the morning. Put your gear out in the bay, make coffee, boom, problem solved, right? You fixed it. Show up the next shift. If the coffee isn't made, you pick it up. It's like, wait a second. Hey, you're supposed to make coffee, right? So we know we took care of the don't know. So we move to the can't, which is they can't do it. So you say, and the person says, in the analogy of the coffee, they're like, man, I've never made coffee before. I've never done it. And I talk about that because it's a simple analogy. But with the people we're hiring in the fire service now, how many have never seen a chainsaw or a 2-cycle engine or started a lawnmower by pulling a rope, and all these things that we take for granted sometimes, but they can't do them because they've never been exposed to them. And so can't is because they can't do it. They are unable. They can't do it. And if they can't do it, again, we can fix that. We can train them. We can give them sets and reps. We can drill them. And so on the coffee, we say, come here, I'll show you. Pull this out, put this in here, put the beans in, fill it up with water, kick it on, boom. It'll make coffee. Now you do it, right? Reset it, do it again. Get them the sets and reps. Whatever the example is, sets and reps until they can do it. So you fast forward. We took care of the can't. We took care of the don't. We took care of the can't. So you fast forward to the third day, the third shift. You show up and the coffee still isn't made. And so we took care of the don't. We know they know. So don't know is not the problem. Can't do it. We took care of that because we trained them. We gave them the sets and the reps. So now we are left with won't. And won't is a behavioral issue, right? Because they can do it. They know they're supposed to do it, but they did not do it. Now you fix behavioral issue with discipline. So you have 3 things that you can answer anytime that an expectation is not met, and each one has a remedy for how it is cured. And 100% Frank Viscuso's 3 U's, just don't, can't, or won't. And that's what I teach, and that's what I try to stick to in my own life every time. So with varying degrees of success, but absolutely try. The effort is there.
Hey, when you said that, and the example you gave, the exact one you just did, brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Then I thought, wow, I could apply this to training. Wow, I could apply this to home life. I could. Yes. I mean, you could, that 3 simple words and a basic understanding of the context in which you're using them, to me, is life changing. I was like, wow, that is. How many times have I had an expectation of somebody to do something that I didn't tell them completely?
Was fuzzy, unclear, not maybe it's that they didn't know, they were just unclear, right. and 100% we fix that don't by being clear. Clarity, man.
Well, I loved it. Loved the class, loved the book. Now, here's why I'm going to tell people. I told you I was going to tell people why they shouldn't buy your book.
Right, yeah, I wanted to hear this. You had my curiosity.
So, I don't think they should buy your book first. Okay. I think they need to buy the Audible first. Okay. And then they should buy the book.
Okay.
Then they should take your class.
This sounds like a good fiscally responsible way.
I want you to make money 3 ways.
Right.
No,
right.
I've having had 2 of the 3, got the book, love the book. Then seeing one thing you can't really get from a book sometimes is some of the context, a lot of the passion. So you take the class and it reinforces that book.
Mm-hmm.
And that book,
yes,
A to Z is great. Take the class, A to Z, it's great. Now I got to do the third part, but I'm doing it backwards. I did it wrong. I wish I'd done it differently. So the reason I'm saying you need to buy the book and download the book. Okay. Well, two things. You're like, well, what if I download the book? That should be enough.
Right.
No, you can't take notes on an Audible. You just can't. So I'm like you. I put tabs. I got some books over there in my downstairs office where I do the same thing. I put tabs. Jason Hovelman, right?
Yeah.
Tab. Broke my
Yes.
brain. Tab. Jared Sergi, tab. Josh Chase. Everybody. So your book is no different. Now, here's why you need to get the download. The download is going to be great. I'm probably going to get it tomorrow and start at the gym because there's bonus content.
Yes.
Now, it's not Corley singing Oklahoma for half an hour. It's not Corley like playing bloopers of him trying to record. Corley Moore, please tell me what this, you call it bonus content, but that does not do it justice. Tell me about if I get the Audible, tell me what extra stuff I'm getting.
Man, little backstory. David Goggins' book Can't Hurt Me. I don't know if you've read it or not. I read it,
loved it. Only book I've ever given as a gift to another person, non-fire.
Oh, wow. No, I love the book. I read it. I bought it, read it. Now, as I teach, I always ask people about books, and people are like, hey, have you listened to David Goggins' Audible, right? Can't Hurt Me. And I'm like, no, I read it. I prefer reading over Audible, generally speaking. I do Audible a lot, don't get me wrong, but if I love the Audible, I buy the book and read it. And I usually, anyway, they like, no, it's the best Audible book ever. And I'm like, why? I read the book. What makes it? They're like, no, after the end of each chapter, he does an interview with the narrator and talks more about what he didn't write in the book, just like a bonus interview with the author. And I was like, man, that's brilliant. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things that I asked the vigilantes, I have a group that people belong to that is the private group that kind of, I asked them for advice on the scrap and writing and classes, and we hang out and all that stuff. But I asked them, I said, should I get a narrator to read the book, or should I read it myself? And all of them said, you have to read it yourself, because the podcast, we all know your voice. It would be weird if we did. And I was like, that's a good point. So I was going to read it myself. And then, but I really like that David Goggins bit about the bonus content. But he had the narrator read the book, and then you got the interview with the author from the narrator. And that was cool. I couldn't figure out a way I could read the book and then just keep on talking with bonus content. So I'm like, how can I do this? And again, it goes back to my network and how many people I know. And I started reaching out and saying, would you be willing to do a bonus interview for the 9 L's and talk about one of the L's and just kind of your take on it? Not necessarily the chapter of the book or any of the points, unless one of them you want to expound on, just your take on that L. And so, man, we talked about earlier, the humility and the willingness to help of people. Frank Viscuso, he did the intro. He did like an hour. In fact, he recorded it twice because I messed up the audio the first time. And so that's how gracious all these people are. Frank Viscuso does the intro and talks about his expectations and things like that. The first L, learn. Aaron Fields comes in and talks about learning and teaching for, I think I want to say like 52 minutes of pure Aaron Fields, just truth bombs. You know what I'm saying? Listen, Rob Fisher talks listen and communication. And that's what he says. He's like, why would you talk to me about listening? I'm the world's worst listener. I'm like, no, but you're such a great communicator. And that's what it's all about. And it's really these organic conversations. I'll try to run through them all real quick without taking up too much time. The third L is level, and Chief Shannon Stone out of Florida came in and talked about level. And it was phenomenal, man. It's like the feedback I've gotten from that from all the interviews. So I don't want to sell anybody short, but even like Dina Ali posted the other day, you made me a better battalion chief with that bonus content. And that's just really cool to see those kind of comments. The fourth L, look, vision, Scott Thompson. I can't think of a better person to speak on vision than Scott Thompson. And he absolutely crushes
He did the forward for the book too, right?
Yes. He's, I always tell people he's probably my biggest mentor in life, which is crazy to me because I didn't know the man even like 3 years ago, other than his book and meeting him once, but no, he's such a huge mentor to the fire service. But no, and in fact, one of the sound bites I put out on Facebook is so good, and I don't want to butcher it or try. The fifth L is laugh. I asked Mike Galliano because he does This House Rocks, and man, he took it in a completely different direction, and it just absolutely delivered. The sixth L, love, Jacob Johnson, passionate dude, loves his people, all about mentoring. The seventh L, live, integrity. Clyde Gordon out of Houston came in and talked about it and just staying consistent. The eighth L, Kyle Ramagas, came in to talk about labor, putting in the work. And dude, he crushed it. Like, it's one of, and then the final one, Ray McCormick did last, how to last in the fire service, how to stay consistent. And again, every one of these people gave their own take on what the kind of the gist of the chapter was, but it's not just like regurgitating that chapter. And then finally, Chief Isaacson closed it out. He did the outro, just to kind of fire people. And so I had a vision for it after ripping off from Goggins. Like, nothing I do is original. So I ripped off Goggins and his idea and ran with it. And man, I'm telling you, it took forever to get done because I'm not a audio guy at all. Like you were talking about clipping. If you saw the edits on those MP3s, I spent forever on it. But it was permanent. It's going in the book. You know, it's not, you want a podcast to be good, but man, when you're talking about the Audible, plus I honestly didn't know if they would accept it. I didn't know if they'd be like, that's not what's written in the book, you know, or that audio quality isn't good enough, we reject it. So I didn't want to, I really, but long story short, man, it turned out better than I even imagined. Like I am so proud of it and humbled by the reception. It's 7 hours of some of the most awesome firefighters on the planet just dropping bombs, man. It's awesome.
It's really, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Like I said, so I kind of knew we talked, I forget where we talked, but we were text or something. It was like, bonus content, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. Didn't think nothing about it. I don't think I paid attention, ADHD.
Right.
But when a friend of mine at work came in and said, hey, dude, oh my God, did you read this book? I'm like, oh yeah, I love 9Ls, love it. He goes, no. I mean, did you listen to it? No, not yet. And that's what he told me. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. So here's what I think people should do. And I'm not blowing smoke. I think if you're a captain, a lieutenant or a captain, you're a company commander. And let's say you work at a department that maybe it's not the culture you feel it should be. Let's say you don't have the crew culture that you think it should be. Here's how I think you should change it. Excuse me, got something stuck in my throat. I think you should buy, let's say you have 3 people on your company, buy three of Corley's books, the 9Ls. And I think you should do like a book club on duty, spread it out. And then after you do that, go back and listen. So now you're reinforcing that good information, and you can make it a company project. And I think this should be done with a lot of books.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I really believe, I really
like
believe
the fact
that
you're making it my book. Don't get me wrong. I love that, but this is solid.
Yeah, it really is. It's absolutely great stuff. I mean, you admit to every other people influence you to do things, and and it comes out in your training. This is no different. It's great information. You have a great book there, and I really think, I promise you, get a hold of Corley. I want you to buy the book for your company, buy it as a gift, go through it as a company. Don't have them just read it, but sit down and just say, hey, for about 15 minutes, we're going to read this and we're going to discuss it. And then after they do that, after they see and feel kind of what I did when I went through it, then after you read the book, or even maybe do the Audible, correlate with each chapter. But I will say this, things will get better. Things will get better when it's a clear pathway, I think, how to get things better. So that's my belief. Tell me where they're going to find the 9L's keys to building a high performance culture, both the Audible and the main book.
Audible, you can get it on iTunes and Audible. I think that's the 2 places it's available. It may be distributed elsewhere because Audible handles all of that. Amazon handles all of that. I can't distribute the, I guess I could, but they distribute it completely. So for the Audible version, it is through Audible or iTunes. And then as far as everything else is firehousevigilance.com. You can get everything else there, especially if you want signed copies of the books or bulk order discounts or anything like that. Now, if you just want it quick and you don't care about it being signed or anything, you can just go to Amazon and, of course, get it on Amazon. And you'll have it 2 days later or the next day shipping or whatever. I'm pretty quick. My wife is amazing at shipping them out. So, but firehousevigilance.com, you can get a copy of the book. You can get merch, swag, hats, anything. I'm trying to think. Vigilantes. I love the Vigilantes. If you love the scrap, or if you just love Firehouse Vigilance and want to be on the inside, the Cool Kids Club is what I call it. You can join the Vigilantes. It's $5 a month, the price of a cup of coffee, and that's where we have private discussions. You get there's benefits to it, membership discounts and for swag but the biggest thing at Vigilante Questions of the Week is, like, right now we're working on what's the next 5 questions for firefighters going to be, right? Because I'm going to change it up around 200 again. And so we're having that good discussion of what that's going to be. And then, of course, we discuss things like who's going to be the guest coming up, who should be on, who have I missed, needs to be on there, and then once a month we get together and we have a forum, which it's a lot like a scrap, but it's very, very informal. And we've been bringing in guests to be guest speakers, and they just get to pick their brain. It's everybody talking, and it's really informal but fun. So anyway, that's the Vigilantes, and that I think covers all the hype, all the promotion. There you go.
Well, let me. I'm going to throw in your other book too. Tell me about your first book. Okay, so I want people to do this too. If you're a leader and you feel like you're 100% perfect, don't buy his book. If you feel like you can get better, make your crew better, and but you might like that introspection, that little bit of honesty that you're going to have, this is the book for you. I promise you. I've got it. I've used it. Powerful. What's the name of that one, Corley?
Challenge Your Leadership. And man, I learned a lot writing that book, and it was passion. I'm very passionate. It challenges me. When I read, I'll thumb through it still to this day and be like, man, you've really dropped the ball on this one, Corley. That kind of thing. I learned a lot writing it. Like, it doesn't translate well to Kindle or Audible or anything. So it's just in a written form because of the, all the challenges and questions it has in it. Because it's called Challenge Your Leadership because it's 100 topics on leadership. And each of those topics has a challenge that is associated with it. And my goal was, typically speaking, a career firefighter that works on shift, works some sort of, usually a 3-day schedule of some sort, whether it's a 48-96, 24-48, or a 9-day or whatever. That equates to about 100 days a year when you factor in holiday and vacation and things like that. So the whole goal of the book is you start at the beginning of the year or whenever you start it, and in 1 year, once per shift, you read a challenge and you try to meet that challenge. And so that was the whole purpose of it. And again, it's a gut check for me to read. And so, like, I love how you challenge people's egos, unless you're perfect, in which case you don't need it.
Exactly. If you're perfect, man, you're probably not listening to this damn podcast for one thing.
No.
But if you're new in the fire department, especially if you're new as an officer, it's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to try to fix it. Now, I want to mention something else too, because I just realized I looked at my notes. I wanted to talk to you about that stuff because it impacted me, but I want to clear something up real quick in case anybody's thinking this. Corley at no time asked me to bring up firehousevigilance.com, the weekly scrap, the 9 L's, Challenge Your Leadership. He did not ask me. He did not text me, write me, ask me before that, nothing. Art literally was like, hey, buddy, I want you to be my 100th episode. And he said, yes. There were no stipulations, no nothing. And the reason I say that is, one, I don't want you to think that Corley said, hey, man, say some nice things. He didn't. I'm authentic. I love the stuff. And I mean, it's guaranteed to get better. I mean, why not spend a few bucks to perfect your craft? Because like I said, if you're great, you're perfect, go ahead, don't.
I appreciate it, dude. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate your passion for the 9 L's and the class, because we talked about it that next day, and you said, I'm gonna call you, and you did, and you're like, no, man, I loved it. And I appreciate that. Even to this day, I get humbled, like I said, by the reception, because people are like, man, that's one of the best classes I've ever sat through, know, and I'm like, thank you, because that voice in the back of my head saying, no, this it's, I don't know, that imposter syndrome kicking, like what, and something you struggle with. And so no, anybody doubts Jake's authenticity, they have to fight me.
And the guy's big. Don't fight him.
But absolutely, man. I appreciate you bringing up the topics and allowing me to expound on them on here. And I hope people found value from them.
Oh yeah. Guarantee. Like I said, I mean, it's buy the book, read the book. I promise things get better. It's just like having a roadmap. Honestly, it's like a roadmap. Back in the day before cell phones, you had to get a triptych. There was no way you were going to get to Florida from Kentucky unless you had your triptych. Yeah. That's what this is. And just like a map, there's different ways to get there. The destination and the starting point don't change. It's everything in between. And that's what I think.
Dude, that's beautiful.
I'm a beautiful man. You're looking at me. You know I'm beautiful. So, all right. So I've stroked you enough. I believe in it. I want everybody to buy it. I'm definitely getting the Audible. I'm going for the hat trick. I've seen you in person present. I've got the book. I got to get the Audible.
I wonder if you're the first to do all three. I wonder if I wonder if there's anybody else. So if anybody else has beaten Jake, let me know.
Oh, I'm going.
He hasn't done it yet.
I'm going to.
Okay. We'll see.
So I tell you what, whoever, if you get somebody before me that beats me, you and me will fight. Whoever that is, you and I will send them some swag.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, no, I
a
think there's
fight.
been some people in the vigilantes who said, I've read the book twice, listened to the Audible, and I loved going along with the Audible having the book, right? And
Right.
they loved it. They posted that, and that's been a cool review, and I've seen that a few times. What I need to check and see is if they've seen the class, because I need to go look at their name. And, so I know
See?
people have done the book and the Audible. I just don't know if they've been to the class. So we'll see.
Well, I tell you what, if we find somebody, you and I will send some challenge coins and stickers. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, brother.
Absolutely. I'm in.
I want to wrap up the way I always wrap up. I want to know what is the best firehouse prank you've played or had played on you.
Man, there's been a lot through the years, 26 years of pranks. And I don't want to dodge the question because I think one of the greatest pranks that's been pulled, I want to share it, but it wasn't on me or by me. So will that count?
That'll work, brother.
Because
That'll work.
This cat had I won't use names or anything, but this cat had a seat cover in a like a 87 short body Chevy, and the seat cover had a metal mesh that kind of ran through it for how it was structured. And the prank that the cat pulled on him was he wired it to the starter, and he wired the seat cover to the starter. So when the guy got in to start the truck, man, it just sent electricity through the seat cover, man. And every time he tried to start it, it would just shock him, man. The ingeniousness of firefighters to do that kind of thing is just amazes me. And it was just awesome. It was just awesome. So
there's nothing
100%.
worse than a bored firefighter, man.
Right, man. But that was the creativity of that one was phenomenal.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'll tell you a good one that I like. I like the long con. I like a joke that pays off. The longer it gets done. So there's two that come to mind. One I did. Now I've never talked about my favorite pranks on a show before.
Okay.
So this has been the 100th episode, and what you're listening to now is the 101st episode. So I'm going to break tradition. So I'm going to tell two real quick.
Okay.
The best one, I think, was a guy wrote a girl's name and a phone number on a piece of paper, scribbled it, tore it off a piece of paper, stuck it in a guy's wallet, hid it like behind stuff, behind a card or something. And it went on for a while. And finally, the guy came to work and said, which one of you guys wrote this? Because his wife found it.
Right.
And was livid. And he just had to wait till the wife needed a reason to go into that wallet. And the person that did this, I don't want to mention his name. He has passed on, unfortunately, but he was one of the best pranksters. And it was everything was original.
Right.
Now, the one I did that I'm pretty proud about was I would go to what do you call it? Garage sales a lot to buy stuff just to fuck with people at the firehouse.
Right.
Like I would buy those timers that kick on a heating blanket. And I'd put a heating blanket under somebody's bed. It'd kick on at 1 o'clock, stuff like that. Well, I found an old Timex watch, the old triathlon one, and I bought it. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I just had it for a while. Then I realized so we had, we hot sheeted in Lexington. We didn't have your own bed. You put everything up when you're done in a box. So we shared the same bed with every crew. So I took this every day when I'd go to work. I would take this watch, cut off the bands, and I set the alarm for, I want to say like 3:07 in the morning. I tied a little bit of fishing line around it. I went behind the blind and hung it up behind where the blind was, because this thing would only go off for about 11 seconds. We timed it one time. So put it up right next to my officer. It would go off every single night at the same time, and he would jump up and start looking for it. He'd start hitting his watch. And I didn't mean for it to be this awesome. I just meant to aggravate for a little bit, but he could never find it. So over that 3-month period, we would, and another thing is me and the guy would, after about a week or two of this, we would yell at him in the middle of the night to turn his watch off, even though we knew it wasn't his watch.
Right.
So he started leaving his watch on the fire engine every night. And then it was his beeper. Then he started leaving his beeper there. And then a cell phone. So he left a cell phone on the truck. So it kept getting better and better. Then it got up to the point where he would jump up and start in the middle of the night, just ripping other people's stuff out of their cubby holes to see if it was there. And again, me and Jackie Ray were going, Mike, quit making so much noise. We knew every night we knew it was going to be a thing. And this just went on forever. And we got it to the point where he basically, anything that was electronic was left on the truck after a 3-month period. He would jump up paranoid in the middle of the night and start ripping things apart, his own bed and everything. He'd get so aggravated. And then he would, like, during the day, he would go looking for it. He would move beds and everything. I would take it down in the morning. As soon as you go to the bathroom, I'd take it down. And then if I was on vacation, I gave it to Jackie to put up. Finally, I guess his senses got tuned. Now, the engine slept on one side of the firehouse. You went to the bay, and that's where the truckies slept. And one of the truckies' name was Robbie. One day, it went off. It maybe beeped twice. And he jumped up, pulled down the shades like he pulled it there, like he knew exactly what it was. He looked up, and he grabbed it. And he found it. And it was still beeping. I mean, this was 3 months of him going insane.
Right.
So we get up, and we look at him, and he's, aha! And he looks right at me, because I'm kind of a troublemaker. And I said, as soon as he did it, I don't know where it came from. I said, that's what Robbie was talking about. And so he went over to the truckies. And I mean, he was going insane. He wouldn't sleep. Right. He didn't sleep with anything. It was heaven. It was one of my favorites. I love it. And I encourage
the long con, like you said, the long con, man.
The long con is better, brother. It's just wonderful. Well,
that's awesome.
Brother, this has been how I want to spend my 100th and 101st episode. Huge fan. And listen, guys, also, I've met Corley. He's a great guy. He's authentic. What you hear and what you see is what you get. I encourage you to buy the books. Go to Amazon. Go to firehousevigilance.com. Look at all the stuff he has. Get the Challenger Leadership. That one's a guaranteed slam dunk, too. I'm telling you, get it. Love it.
Thank
brother,
you, Jake.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being on. It's meant the world to me. You've inspired me. You've inspired a lot of people. And thank you so much, brother.
Thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for letting me be a part of your centennial episode, my man.
Is there any chance we can close out with how you start the scrap? Because I love that voice you do.
Are you talking about my movie?
Yes, your movie trailer.
So long ago. I did that so long. My son made fun of me so much for that.
All right, how about you do this? How about you do the voice, but you do the closing for this episode for me?
All right, everybody. Man, audience, you make the scrap magical. It would not be what it is without you. I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning. Everybody, stay safe out there.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jake.
I'll see you. Our podcast today was sponsored by Fire Facilities. This Made in America company is dedicated to constructing top quality custom training structures to meet your needs. Make your training count with all steel structures that are made to last. Visit firefacilities.com for more details.